Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David. Hey, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Next Level Real Talk Podcast with Sheldon and David.
Hoping you guys had a great week and are doing well and enjoying your weather, enjoying the process of life and having some peace in it.
Yeah, and speaking of weather, we want to send our love and thoughts to my cousin-in-law, Jacqueline's cousin, Sal, who was one of our interviews.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sal,
Back.
good guy.
Yep.
He lives in Florida. He's been right in the middle of all the hurricane stuff, and his place got flooded out. So he has pretty much lost everything. I think he and his dog are okay. So those are the things that are most important. But he's going through a lot of rough times right now. So I just wanted to say that we are holding him in our hearts and prayers and sending him some love. So.
And to all those in Florida and
Yeah, everyone in
on the
Florida,
East
right?
Coast that's going through it all. Yeah. So peace be
Been
with
a
them,
lot up on the
definitely.
East Coast for sure.
Yeah. Well, last week we talked about peace and politics, how to journey through that world. We didn't talk politics. We talked about
Navigating.
how to navigate, with peace and positivity, and how to work with people. And the three objectives we came up with from our homework was your first choice is to stay calm or to attack. And so that's you got to immediately go to that first level, and if you're on the being calm side, the other person's being attackive, kind of attacking. If you listen and be patient and be present, then that may help them calm down. If your first reaction is to attack back, then it's going to be an argument the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can take your first choice, you say, "I'm going to be calm." Stop, drop, and breathe. Listen to what they're saying. Be present, okay, and then let go of the judgment. Don't judge it. Just see where they're coming from, because it's whatever there is. And some of the stuff we'll talk about today kind of goes into that, about your history, about your, how you grew up and all that kind of stuff. What's in your brain? That's how they're reacting. And so if you can stay calm in it and not judge and just kind of process through, it'll help calm them down, and you might be able to have a great conversation.
Yeah, and learn something.
Yeah. Concept, you might learn something.
You might learn something new. And you know, and seeing your brother as yourself, right? Seeing this person that you're talking to isn't evil, isn't stupid, isn't whatever, trying to destroy the country, is a brother, a patriot, a fellow patriot, a fellow person who has different views. And maybe we can learn something from each other. And how do we have civil discourse, right? And it comes with respect and love, I think.
Exactly.
Respecting everybody. I always used to say in my shop that we loved each other, and guys would get all weird about that. And I'd be like, how do you show your love in a shop, in a business environment like this? It's respect. When you respect somebody, that is a form of extending love. Like, you don't necessarily say, "Oh, I love you," and want to, hug your fellow workmate. You know what I mean? But it's like, hey, when you're respectful to them, that is a form of expressing love, right? Through respect.
Yeah.
So.
And as we have a small topic today that we're talking about, kind of ideas, and so I kind of did some research on one of the people, and I just want to say, as we get into it, one of it is talking about what's the person's experience, where they're coming from. Because I got a great story with my mom and my family from Texas. It's like, wow, that's where they came from. I didn't realize that's where their thought process was coming from. Not because of who they were, it's because of where they grew up and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that later, though. So understand that in this political season, when you're having that conversation, show that respect and understand, they're coming from this. That's what they believe in because of this, not because they're right, they're wrong. It's just that's who they are. So I think which leads us right into our topic for today. So
yeah, and it's funny, right? Because Dave, we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, about talking about this guy and this teaching. It's a teaching called the Ho'oponopono, and I'm probably saying that wrong. It's Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono, I think is what it is. Ho'oponopono.
And I'm going to go with what he says because I cannot say it at all. There it is. Yeah.
So Ho'opono, Ho'oponopono, and it's a Hawaiian practice. Some of you may or may not have heard of it. It's a very simple kind of practice, but there's a whole, just like anything, it's a application and how it works in your life and what you can do with it. And it's 4 simple steps. Um, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's That's the mantra. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Like that's literally the whole Ho'oponopono. That's the teaching. That's the practice. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. But it incorporates some of the fundamental principles of gratitude, of love, of forgiveness, of release, of acceptance, of taking responsibility. All of these kinds of things are in those 4 words, those 4 statements. And
I mean,
miraculous healings and transformations can happen just by using that as a practice. And what do I
mhm.
mean by how do you use it? You literally can use it for everything that comes up in your field of awareness. And there's a particular person who was trained in this system by a master of this practice, and his name was Hugh Len, Hewlen, right? And he's a Hawaiian guy. He just passed, I think, 2022 or 2020. Recently, he just died. Um, but he's contemporary. This guy who lived in our time. Uh, and he had been again taught by this woman, and there's a bunch of interviews if you want to go down that
Yeah.
go onto YouTube,
Hmm.
and you can Google or YouTube him. He's got a ton of interviews out there because he became famous for a particular thing that happened. Should we just talk about it, right?
Yeah, because he learned from her. I can't say her name at all.
Yeah.
It's a Hawaiian name, but he learned from her in 1982. That's when he started learning from her. So that's when he graduated high school. So it tells you how long he has been working with it and how long ago he learned it. But it's just the quick ideas that he has are just so fundamental, and it helps you be at peace when you realize some of these things that we're doing. And I'm not sure where you want to go first, but it's like it's that origin. It's all in our brain. He calls it data, which
Hmm.
I get it, data. So I'm going to go in my world, say memory and thoughts.
Yep.
Okay, because but it is data. It's the data's in our brain, and he talks about that. And it's that if there's something going on, a tragedy or a thought or a memory,
Fear,
um,
anxiety.
fear, anxiety, you go in there and you just find out what it is first. Go down and find that origin, and then if you need to stop it, it helps you. If you notice it, which we've talked about before, go in and notice it and accept what it is, then you won't repeat it, or you can slowly get it out of there. At one point, he talks about erasing that data,
Yeah.
erasing that memory.
Clearing it.
And
Yep.
which to me, I'm like, I think the memory is always going to be there. It's how
Hmm.
you deal with it and put it away.
It's
So
it's the emotional response to it.
yes,
Right?
hmm
You can have a memory and all of a sudden, and for especially people with in intense trauma, when you have that memory, it literally triggers you back into it. It's as if it's
yes,
real and you reactivate it. And can you have that
hmm
memory and just like, and I had a teacher who said, you know, when you go through a clearing and when you're clear, you can look at it, it's like watching a movie. It's like, oh yeah, that happened. But you're no longer traumatized, or you don't have an intense emotional, oh, I'm not mad at, oh man, now I'm mad at that person all over again because they did that. I remember it, right? So that's
hmm
what you're clearing, and you're releasing all of that, the trauma,
totally,
the energy of the emotional reaction to that thing, and you
hmm
can clear that. And yeah, the you know what I mean? Oh yeah, I still remember that happened. It's not like your brain is gone and you can't remember it anymore, but
exactly,
there's nothing attached to that memory. It's almost like somebody else's memory.
yeah,
And
yes.
that's the clearing process that this Ho'oponopono.
And you talked about the 4 steps, and one of them, as I was reading stuff and watching stuff of his, it's the I love you. When you say I love you, like if something comes up, that's accepting it, saying that
Hmm.
that's a part of me. Okay, I
Hmm.
love you because you're a part of me.
Hmm.
Now I want to deal with it and let it kind of go away.
Yeah.
So it's like instead of saying, "Oh my God, this is who I am," say, "No, this is who I am," but
So
I'm working on it now. You know.
yeah, so let's talk about, let's share his story now. So we kind of
Hmm.
said it, this is this thing, it's a 4 thing. What's the point of it? Who cares? Okay, you can do it, you can do it to yourself, you can do it to others, big deal, right? What is the magnitude? And I think that the reason he got famous was, so he was a medically trained doctor. right? He was a Western doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a medical doctor, and so that's
Yeah,
why he was a psychiatrist. I
and he
think
worked with special needs kids.
special needs kids. And then he got assigned to a hospital for mental and criminally insane, right? I think it was
Mhm.
literally criminally insane people.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so it wasn't just your run of the mill, oh, I'm depressed or whatever. It was these people are
Intense.
on a pretty extreme in the spectrum of mental illness. Um, and he's the doctor. And so what he did every day, correct me if I'm wrong, because you did some research on this, right?
It was a prison site, right? It was at a prison site, kind
I
of
think they were, yeah,
a
they were
hospital.
locked. It was a
Yeah,
lockdown,
yeah.
but it was a mental facility, right?
I call it a prison, but it's more of a mental facility. But it's
Yeah, but
kind
it
of
was
like they were.
lockdown too. It wasn't,
Yeah,
they could leave
yeah,
whenever they wanted. These people were there
yeah.
permanently, essentially. And so he would go to this office every day and he would pull out files of these people and he would do the Ho'oponopono with them. So he would literally just look at their file. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Because he's operating from this principle that we're all one, that we're all connected, that this is my brother. This brother is an extension and a part of me because we're energetically all one. Um, and so there's no separation, there's no distance. And so if I can clear that within my own mind, my this file that I'm looking at, and I can clear everything that might come up within me about that person and any judgment, any thought, whatever it is, and I'm wiping all of that completely clear, it can literally heal that person.
Hmm.
And that's what happened. The people that he was doing the Ho'oponopono with were literally getting better mentally, and he never saw them. He never made rounds. He never did therapy with them. He literally sat in his office all day long and did the Ho'oponopono on with them, with their file individually, one at a time, through all the files every single day. That's all he did. Right? He just
Yeah,
went in
I don't
there.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember that whole part. I didn't research
Yeah,
that part, but
that's all he
I
did.
hear.
He went in
I
there,
heard. Yeah.
he just sat in his freaking office and did the Ho'oponopono. Like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. But he's looking at a particular person, and then he'd set it down, he'd do the next file, and he would look at it, and he would connect to it, and he would release. And the story was that the hospital ended up shutting down the ward or whatever. Like, they all
Hmm.
got better. Like, literally, there were no more people for him to work on. And it took a couple of years, but he literally healed everyone in the ward without doing
Incredible.
a thing,
That's
without
incredible.
talking to them, meeting them, nothing. He just, because everything is in us. We are all
Yeah,
one.
it's in
Everything
the
is in
self.
you.
Yes.
So it's, let that sink in. It sounds like that's total bullshit, but you can YouTube it, and there are a bunch of interviews of him getting interviewed by news people, by talk shows, by all kinds of
Tons of people. Yeah.
people. He's got a lot of video out there because he was covered. It was like, whoa, what the hell happened there? You know what I mean? And then there were
Hmm.
books written about him and the whole thing. Um,
Hmm.
he kind of became famous, but he literally would do the Ho'oponopono before he'd go for an interview. If this is coming into my awareness, I'm clearing it, right? So that I'm
Hmm.
clear of any judgments, preconceptions, whatever it is, and I'm going to go in open and then listen to guidance, because then his guidance would tell
Hmm.
him whether or not he should even do the interview or not. So
Yeah.
he lived his whole life in this state of open surrender to his higher power. And
He's talking about that, the memories, the data in the brains. It's how we choose to experience things, because we can go in there and say, okay, this is a fearful thing, or this is a scary thing, and how am I going to experience this? Or that trigger, like you're talking about, that triggers there. It's like, but if we have gone in and we've looked at that data, the memory, the piece, um, then you can experience it totally different. We can choose
mhm,
to fear it in fear, or like, no, that's just a piece that now that's just there. Or he says it can be gone.
mhm,
um, and so it all just comes from information that we've either from our upbringing or just from society.
mhm,
I mean, Sheldon, you were just down in the South. The way they, okay, for his work, he was down in the South. The way they were raised, the way that their society is, the way that their beliefs are totally different than the way that you and I were raised in Tempe,
mhm,
Arizona.
mhm.
Not that that's wrong. That's
Right,
just what they did. So you
right.
can't go like, well, he's so wrong because he believes that. No, because that's what it was. there in the South at that point.
Right.
So it's all about our upbringing, and we have to respect that part
Yeah.
and understand that part. So,
somebody who's raised in New York City might think it's insane that you could carry a gun. What's the purpose of that? And if you grow up in the South or in the middle of the country, there's large swaths of America where gun culture is. You just carried a gun because you carried a gun. That's what everybody did. And it's just like putting your wallet in your pocket. Put your freaking gun in your pocket. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make that person evil. It doesn't make them, insane. It's a different culture, right? And so sometimes we need to appreciate the culture within America, the cultures within America that are very different, right?
And one big one I want to talk about my mom real quick, which I look back on and going like, wow, Granddad did a great job of getting them out here and kind of changing their culture indirectly. So in Texas, okay, Mom was born and raised in Texas. She's in Galveston, Port Arthur, Beaumont, the deep South, big old world. They come out here.
Yeah, that is very southeast, right?
Yes. Yep.
That is southeast.
It's on a little bit of the Gulf. Yeah, up there. Yeah.
That is
so
Gulf
waterways
close to Louisiana and all that, right?
Yes, because Granddad, he was born and raised in Louisiana, which is right across the bridge. We call the border the bridge. Okay, used to go fishing there all the time, right there on the Louisiana-Texas border, which is kind of like, well, cool. So Dad, being the Baptist minister that he always wanted to come out, or wanted to be a Baptist minister, didn't like that area and wanted to come out here to school just because of all the things that were going on in the South. And so they came out here.
This is in the 50s or 60s?
Yeah, probably the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
So Mom was born in 38, so they were here in high school at least. And so, mind you, there were culture things going on. Okay, and so all these years go forward. I never, I knew that they grew up in the South, and you had the cultural, the racial wars going on. And so years later, I'm sitting there and my mom and I were talking, and she goes, "Yeah, I remember drinking out of a white drinking fountain." And I go, "Mom, they're all porcelain. They're all white. What are you talking about?" Like, my mom's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Mom, they're all porcelain." She's like, "No, son." I go, "What?" She goes, "Only white people could drink out of my drinking fountain. Yeah. Blacks had to drink out of another drinking fountain." I go, "What?"
Yeah.
But I never knew from my mother, I never knew that there was that culture, racial situation, that she went to a white woman only bathroom. There wasn't one person that wasn't white in her bathroom, because that was the rules. That was the society. But that came out of her brain by my granddad or whatever it was, the process, because she never said that to me. I mean, she never used vulgar language about blacks, about anything. There was one moment, I forget.
Your mom loved everybody.
She did.
There's no doubt about that.
We sat there and we're watching a basketball game, and she's like, "Man, that's dark." I go, "What?" She goes, "Man, I don't see one white guy on that team." I go, "Mother." She goes, "I'm sorry. I know that was wrong." But that was her culture. Yeah. She didn't say, like, "Look at all that."
Yeah.
And so, two real quick final stories. I'll never forget going back from Mama Stanley's, my great grandmother's 90th birthday. I think she was 90. She died when she was 102, by the way. Great life. And so I was doing video because I want to do video and maybe do something with her life. And so there were two of us cars. Now, where they grew up in Port Arthur was now not the normal. It was now that's where, and I say this, sorry, it was now all black. It was all black. And so they're freaking out because I want to go get videos of this. They're like, "Oh my God." And so they're all roll the windows up and, all this little scared stuff. And I'm like, "People, stop it." And so we're sitting there on video. So we're across the street and there's the house. It's on a corner. I'm just getting a picture of the house, kind of videoing. And the front door opens. Oh my gosh, they all freak out. "Oh man, roll the window up, roll the window up. Oh, he's coming outside." I go, "Hey, I'm just getting a video. My great grandma turns 90. You want to get a picture where all the kids grew up?" He goes, "Oh, make sure you go around back, get a picture of a big old tree. I'm sure they had to swing off of that thing." I turned around and went,
See,
it's okay, but their culture made them think that way.
Yeah. And society, right? Stereotypes and all those other things.
That was their society there. Yep. And when they came to Tempe, Phoenix, that what didn't exist. So that kind of went away from my mom
Yep.
because that wasn't embedded in her later on.
Yep.
So it's not that she was wrong by thinking that. That is just what was put into her
Yeah.
data up
Yep.
here.
And if
And
you don't
final
clear it,
thing,
it stays.
it stays. And granted, got him here and it cleared
Yep.
per se. It's still there, but it
Yep.
wasn't like the
Yep.
you know. And on your note, you just said that mom loved everybody, and I'll never forget it. Her celebration of life. It was so cool because of the story I just told you, and what I'm going to tell you. I'm sitting outside, kind of greeting people. A gentleman walks up and shakes my hand. He goes, I go, hi, I'm David. I'm Carolyn. Section. Oh my gosh, I loved your mother. She's so sweet. She was so nice. And he goes, when I started teaching, I was different for the crowd. He's a black man. Okay, there weren't many black men in that school, at in Arizona at the school she was at. And she came into my room, greeted me, and she did my bulletin board for me. I was like, and I used him in the celebration of life. That month, like, this is what my mom was.
Yeah.
And this is where she came from. This is what she's doing now. So you can change that culture, that data that's in your brain, and make it a good thing. So I went way off on a tangent there. Sorry, but that's what Hugh Lin was talking about. Is about changing that data, and making it. He says go away. I wish I could a lot of stuff I could get to go away, but it's the memory there, and you can change it into a negative or positive. And it's how we choose to experience that knowledge now that we accept it. So, and that's where I love you. Like my mom would say, if she was here, she would say, that bad thought comes in. Maybe she goes, you know what? I love you because that's who I was. But this is how I'm going to go forward with it.
Yep.
Thank you for being a part of my life and letting me have that experience.
Yes.
Now I'm going to go this way with it rather than go this way. To choosing the experience you want to have with that. Yeah.
And perfect, love heals all things, and perfect love casts out all fear. I mean, that's literally in the Bible, right? So it's like love, unconditional love. And unconditional love is a love that allows and accepts all things, embraces and trusts everything, right? When you direct that at your own thoughts and memories and wounds and traumas, when you can hold loving space for yourself, which is what that Ho'oponopono is doing, right? I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, right? And sending love and compassion to yourself, parts of yourself, you can heal it. And so I always look at it as a process of healing, right? We're healing within our own mind, within our own heart, right? These traumas, these things, these programs, right? These old programmings. And then, again, in spiritual teaching, they talk about returning to original wholeness. Our origin whole, at peace, connected, right? One with God, whatever you want to call it, right? Your divine spark, right? And you're returning to that wholeness that's within you, that's naturally within you. It's there, but we get all fragmented. We get separated. We get all this stuff that happens to our psyche through traumas, through wounds, through things, right? And then the Ho'oponopono is a really powerful and simple practice that if you apply it, can transform your life dramatically. And that's the story of Hugh Lin.
And it's about one part of that. It's called self-identity. Identity, and he talks about one thing I love because he brought up a library, so obviously I started listening real good. So he said, where is it? He said, he goes, yeah, I saw this cartoon article. It was a library, and it had two sections. It had self-help and fixing others or helping others, whatever it is. He goes, in the self-help, there was one guy, and the fixing others, there was everybody else. He goes, we shouldn't go in to try to fix others. We can help others, but we need to work on ourselves. And working on ourselves, then we can kind of help others, but not fix others. You need to fix ourselves. You can only fix yourself. You can only help others. I was like, wow, I like that.
You can point a direction, you can guide, you can inspire, you can encourage, you can support, but you can't fix, right? The person has to do there. It's a personal journey. It's accepting personal responsibility for things. And obviously when people have had traumas when they're young, it's like, hey, I didn't ask for that, and that's true. But and so looking at yourself and looking at other people with compassion for the journey that they've been on, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then they have to look at themselves with compassion, right? The younger self, and be able to
Yep.
start this journey of looking at everything rather than burying, right? And that's the thing that most of us do is we just bury, we repress, we
Mm-hmm.
ignore.
And
We
when
just,
that
I got to
happens,
think positive and move on. And that's the danger of positivity.
yeah.
It's like where you're not willing to even look at the things that have happened, the negative,
Mm-hmm.
because typically what happens is it starts to fire that stuff back up. And so
Yeah.
that's the trick is,
Yeah. It's okay to have that positiveness of, hey, I'm going to fix this and I'm going to change this, but I got to deal with this
mm-hmm,
before I can fix it. Because as you just said, I mean, yes, I may suppress it and say, okay, it's gone. And then all of a sudden some trigger comes up
yep,
and it poof, boils
yep,
right up.
yep,
Now, if you've dealt with it, it's still there in my world. But if you've dealt with it and that trigger comes up, you're like, wow, I remember I was there,
yep,
but I'm going to do this in peace and compassion.
yep.
This is where I'm
And
going to go.
the
You
funny
know?
thing is that when you've really healed a trigger, it doesn't even trigger you anymore. Have you
No,
ever had those
exactly.
situations where something happened and you go,
Yep.
wow, in the past I'd have been mad at that. And it
Mhm,
already happened
mhm,
and it passed by and you're like, wait, am I supposed to get pissed off at that person? Because I've had that
mhm.
where I was going through that where it's like, wait, I normally would have got really mad at that. And I didn't even get mad and I forgot. And then like an hour later, you're like, wait a second. Did I let that guy say that? Should I be mad now? And
Oh, yeah.
sometimes your ego can actually re-inflame you like hours later.
Yeah,
And you're like, well,
it's
I
little
guess I'm
things.
huh?
One time, I mean, after I got divorced, I was sitting there and I mean, I was divorced. Okay, I dealt with it. You're fine. You're okay with it, per se. So finally, I'm gonna go to a movie. I'm gonna sit down and watch a movie. It's hard to watch a movie by yourself because I'm divorced. There's not anybody to go with. I could have gone with friends, but you know what I mean. So I'm sitting in the movie, and of course, I love law. I love suspense and all that stuff. So it was called The Judge, I think it was, and it was really cool. Like, yeah, this is my world. I'm gonna watch this. I get there. The whole premise inside of it all is about a guy going through a divorce. I sat in the movie crying, going like, "Well, that sucks." But I eventually dealt with all that stuff,
Yeah.
and now I can watch a movie that talks about divorce. I could read a book that talks about divorce, and that trigger isn't that same trigger anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, that feeling's there because I've been there, but it's not the oh, this hurts so bad. So that was totally when I first saw the movie, like the one movie. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, God, I know you're working on
Yeah.
something. I got to believe.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. So they didn't say that in the preview. That would have been nice to know. So, but yeah. So just dealing with that and going in and just letting it be a part of you. Say, I love you. I love
Yeah.
you. I mean, I divorce was a fun, but that is a part of me. I love
Mm,
that. This is who I am now, and accepting it. And the other one is saying, I'm sorry to someone else, saying, I'm
mhm,
sorry that I
mhm,
did this and
mhm,
accepting that you did something wrong.
mhm.
That's a huge step.
Yeah.
So,
So accepting responsibility for your role in whatever might have come up,
mhm,
right? Maybe I wasn't the
yeah.
best version of myself or whatever, just I'm sorry, please forgive me. And
And
forgiveness, because forgiveness and asking forgiveness and giving forgiveness, right?
yep.
Is people often, forgiveness is a tricky thing. They did something wrong to me, okay? But it's not really about condoning as much as it is releasing.
Yeah.
That's what
Hmm.
forgiveness for me is. It's like allowing yourself, you're letting go of your judgment, your anger, or whatever, and you're just, it's a release and a healing that happens within your own heart, within yourself, as you're no longer going to be attached to that thing, right? So it's a
Hmm.
form of letting go. It's not saying that it was okay, and it's not saying that you want that to happen again. It's saying that you're no longer burdened by it.
Yes. Yep.
I'm no longer burdened by it or identified with it or uh, it's not who I am anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
That whole dynamic of almost like a codependency hook into this thing is just,
Hmm.
I'm just going to release that whole thing. And that's what forgiveness does. It's
Uh,
releasing it for yourself. That we talked about, I think, in one of the podcasts where there's a Buddhist saying like, uh, holding, holding back forgiveness is like picking up a hot coal to throw it at somebody, but your hand gets burned.
you're getting burned. Yeah.
You're the one
And
getting burned by the thing, by the lack of forgiveness, right?
and I'm going to apologize because I'm Googling something real quick because I want to read it verbatim because I will mess every word I ever say up. Um, it's a song about forgiveness.
The one that you talked about for when you're the forgiveness,
Yeah,
the one who you
the
forgive is your
prisoner. Yeah, it says
the country song,
forgiveness,
right?
forgiveness. Uh,
Yeah, you've mentioned it before, and it's
Yeah, it's here it is.
same.
Here's it clears away the bitter. It clears all the bitterness away. It can even set a prisoner free. There is no end to what the power can do. So let it go and be amazed at what you see through the eyes of grace, which is forgiveness. The
Mhm.
prisoner that it really sets free is you.
Yeah,
So even though you could be angry at someone and say, "Hey, I'm going to forgive them for what they did. I'm going to move on," and that you will feel so free. And because
yeah,
that's what I went through when I heard that song, and I was like, I'm holding myself prisoner thinking about that.
yeah,
I need to let go.
yes,
I don't care what happened. There's the I need to fix me. I can't fix that.
yeah,
So if I can fix me, then I'm the prisoner. It's just that
yeah,
got set free.
yes.
So yeah, it's exactly what you were talking about. I love it.
Yeah, so so this little simple thing, "I'm sorry, please forgive me,"
Hmm.
and then when you're asking forgiveness, you're also forgiving, so there's always kind of
Hmm.
a two-way street, and then extension of love, "I love you," and then
Yeah.
thank you, gratitude, puts you in a state of gratitude, which is the state of receptivity for grace, for blessing, for communion, with the divine,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it. So the Ho'oponopono, as simple, and I know I'm saying it wrong, so I apologize,
Yeah.
but
Hey,
it's
you're closer than
so
I am.
simple. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. Um, and again, the extent of it is this guy literally healed people of extreme mental uh, disorders or whatever you want to call them, mental illnesses, to the point of the most extreme versions, to the point where they were literally locked up, and healed them without ever meeting them or talking to them or associating with them. And just by connecting to them and then doing this, "I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you." Right.
Hmm. Yep.
um,
Totally.
crazy. It's crazy wild to think about that. I think I wanted to share that. We wanted to talk about it because it's just sort of expands your mental horizon for what is possible. We've talked about Joe Dispenza healing his back through,
Do you want to talk about him a little more about what he went through?
um,
I don't know how much
he,
we talked about it before, but
so Joe Dispenza, he's
yeah,
written 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 books, New
yeah.
York Times bestseller, travels all over the world. He was in a triathlon, got hit by a Ford Bronco going 55 miles an hour, shattered 6 of his vertebrae, was hospitalized and in a bed looking at the floor face down. And they said they had to have this. He tells the story. If you YouTube him, he tells the story. He's told it a million times, so he has a very set way he tells it. It's almost the same every time. And he's like, "Hey, people need a wake up call." And my wake up call occurred on October. Blah blah blah. I was in a triathlon. Boom, gets hit. They say he needs to have the Harrington rod surgery, where they shave the back of the spine. They put those bars, and then they fuse your spinal vertebrae to the bars. They said he wouldn't be able to walk, but it was the only way to stabilize his spine because he was in tremendous pain. Got four different he got four different opinions from the top surgeons in Malibu and Los Angeles. They all said the same thing. He said, "No, thank you." They ship him home in a bed, lying face down, looking at the floor. And so his thing was he wanted to clearly visualize the healing. And so he would spend hours doing this detailed, every vertebrae healing back, every fragment of the bone going back into place. And then if he had a negative thought interfere with it, he would stop and start over. So he would start this thing, and then he would have pain, and he would no start, or he'd have like, "Oh my god, I'm never going to walk again." Nope, start over.
Mhm.
And his whole idea was, I want to make a very clear blueprint of what my intention is. So a clear intention, surrendered to a higher power. And I don't think he said God. He said the power that created me can heal me. The force that created me can heal me, and this is what I want. And he would do that over and over and over again. And he said he was in so much pain, or he'd have these negative thoughts. I'm going to be a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and blah blah blah. That he'd start over, right? And so he would take him like all day long just to do it once. After 6 weeks, he started to have a decrease in pain, and he could wiggle his toe.
Wow.
So he realized, wow, it's working. So he talks about this. His whole technique for a meditation that he trains is an elevated, excited emotion and a clear intention, surrendered. So that's kind of his formula. I think,
Hmm.
Jack Lane's read more of the books than I have, and I haven't really read any of them. I listened to them, and so I don't know the details. But that's pretty much his formula. I think is that you get into a connected state, you get a clear intention, and you surrender it to your higher power. And so again, that's what he would do. So now
And
he's excited because he's happy. Oh my God, this is working. 4 weeks later, he was walking.
wow.
So it took him
And
10 weeks from beginning to end, and he was walking, and he's completely healed now. That dude is fine. He walks
and I
unscathed.
and I think how that actually connects into what we're talking about is like, yes, his is an extreme level. He totally changed. One is his body is able to walk, but going in and going within self, not going like you need to fix me, you need to do this.
Yeah.
I need a doctor that's really going to talk to me right. It's like no, I'm gonna go inside myself. A little bit more intense than most of us would go, but it's but he did that. He went in and cleared things inside of him,
Yeah.
and could have said there's like I'm not walking the rest of my life
Yeah.
and use that data and that thought. But he says, no, I'm going to make this work. And so he took it and went through it in an intense way. And it shows that the mind can help.
Yeah.
And you're processing that part, that wave. So
There's another gentleman, RJ Spina, who's more recent. I think his happened in 2017. And so he was super, super sick. He had a whole list of autoimmune diseases and all kinds of stuff. He was not a healthy human being. And he was in the hospital. And I didn't realize this. I just saw a video where he's telling the story. I think he said he was in the hospital for 8 weeks. And they were trying to get rid of a bacterial infection that he had, like meningitis or something like that. It was super strong. They had him all kinds of potent antibiotics, and then the thing kept getting worse. And it got so bad it went into his spine, and it started shutting down all of his organs. So he was dying. And so he was in the hospital. He started shutting down. He was basically on the verge of dying, and they did an emergency surgery on him. And I think they cut his whole back open, and they had to
ooh,
cut all the vertebrae open, and they were looking at his spinal cord. So they're now destroying the sheath of the spinal cord, but there's this bacterial infection all along the spinal cord. And I think they literally had to scrape it. Like we're scraping the bacteria goop off of your spinal cord to get it out because it was overwhelming your body. And he comes out of the surgery and they're like, the good news is you're alive. We saved your life. The bad news is you're never going to walk again. And I thought it was neck down, but it was mid chest down, paralyzed.
okay.
And he's just like, and they literally scraped the sheath of his neurons, which never regenerate. You're not healing this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You're not going to heal this. You're paralyzed, right? And he was just like, I will walk in 100 days. And they're like, you're delusional. You
David
need to
Day.
accept
Yeah.
reality. You're not going to walk. And so these
Wow.
nurses that would come in, they were like, look, you need to face reality. Get with it. I'm sorry. I know it's hard. Face reality. You're not going to walk. He's like, I don't want to see that nurse in my room again. And he was basically connecting to his higher power, God, creative force of the universe. And he could feel energy so sensitively. He could feel the negative people coming into his room, and he would be like, out. And so if they were positive,
Wow.
he would let them in. If they weren't, he wouldn't even let them in. He said it was like I could feel their energy coming in. And 100 days later, he walked. That dude is totally fine.
Wow.
He's written like 3 books. He's got the 4th one on its way. He's pretty exploded all over the whole scene. But he's got video of him wiggling his toe,
Wow. That's awesome.
boom, because he knew this is going to happen and this is part of my path and I'm going to share this with a lot of people. He recorded it. So he's got video of every stage of him. They've got a video with the
That
walker.
is so cool. And again, he went inside himself, inside his thoughts, and said, no, this is what we're going to work on. We're going to make this work.
Yes.
Again, intense. Okay. Hopefully none of us have to go to that intense level.
Yep.
But what we're talking about, it's the basic. It's just the basic. Go inside your brain into that data and make that change.
Yes.
Shift it,
render it to a higher power.
Yeah.
So it's not.
And as we're talking about that, like, don't look at them and go, God, they're so wrong. They need to change their ways. It's like, no.
Yep.
No, you can't do that.
Yep.
You can believe that and say that, but no, worry about you and say, okay, is that something I can help that person with? Not fix that person, but know that they have backgrounds. They have the society, they have the upbringings, they have whatever it is, and that may be something that's just so different. You can't make that, but don't work on them. Work on you, no matter what.
Thich Nhat Hanh, I think that's how you say his name. That Buddhist monk. I think he won the Nobel Peace Prize. But he, knew Martin Luther King and all that back in the '60s and '70s, and I think he passed recently. But anyway, he was associated with a pretty simple quote that said something like, "Be the peace you wish to see in the world." You have to
Mm,
be the peace. If you
yeah.
want to see peace, it's not wait till the whole world changes, then I'll be happy, or at
Hmm.
peace. I have to be at peace first.
Yes.
So, and the peace that passes all understanding. I can be at peace no matter what is happening
Hmm.
in the world,
Yeah.
in
It's
my body.
it's still happening, but
Yeah.
how I choose to experience it is a
Yes.
lot different. Do I want
Yes.
to go stressed out and go, oh my God, this is the world's
Yes.
going on? It's like, yeah, that's stressful, but can I be at peace and go like, wow, that's going on.
Yep.
How am I going to get through it? What am I going to do? It's that having that peace, having that, and
Yes.
that's what we talked about. Going back to last week, it's your first choice. Are you going to be calm or are you going to attack? It's a
And
choice.
and I always look at it as that's seek first the kingdom of heaven within. All things will be added unto. I like to get with
Hmm.
some of those J-man quotes that are super simple, right? It's like, hey, you go in, you connect. In
Hmm.
Hinduism they call it self-realization with the S with a capital S. You have to realize the self. You have to connect in there first, and when you do, everything shifts, right? But that's the place where the peace that
Hmm.
passes all understanding is it, and it always resides in you no matter what, and you can operate from that. So you're connecting to that peace that's within you, that's not of
Hmm.
you, it's beyond, and then you can align in the direction in which you wish to go, your intention, the direction of your intention. um, there's another guy from the 50s. I think he lived in past in maybe the 90s. Neville Goddard. He was a very all about prayer and all about intention. And he was in the army, drafted. I think it was Vietnam or Korean War, something like that. And he was drafted, and they're like, "You're going to war, buddy." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "You're in the boot camp. You're going." He's like, "No, I'm not. I'll be home for Christmas." And they're like, "No, you're not. You're in boot camp. You're not going home." And he's like, "I'm going home. Watch." And he would just pray all the time and visualize and see himself at home for Christmas. And he's just like, "I'm not here."
Hmm.
And he had this whole thing where don't let the what you're experiencing distort your reality, the reality of within.
Hmm.
And commanding officer pulled him in his office and goes, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm gonna let you go."
Really?
Signed his papers, sent him home, and he was home for Christmas. He was home for
Oh,
Christmas.
wow.
And he had done that a bunch of different times in his story. He had done
Mhm,
that a bunch of different times before he ever got in the army, and so he knew how to do this whole thing where the absolute clarity
yeah.
and his intention. But it was, I think the thing that people miss oftentimes is there's a surrendered intention too. It's not just me of myself, I do nothing. The Father through me does all things, which is another thing, right? And I've said that many times
Mhm,
before, but it's a surrendered intention. It's like you have to connect up to this higher power, and then you're saying, "This is my intention within it," and then that's what makes it happen.
mhm.
So, and you can do it to yourself. I mean, you have the power within, but sometimes it gets caught when you do that. It gets caught into the ego mind
Yeah.
in your brain, and that's
Mhm,
where you can get confused. So that gets pretty esoteric. There's a lot in there, but the simple thing is, you can do something as simple as a ho'oponopono.
mhm.
I'm sorry, please
And
forgive me.
and yeah, that basic part of that is self-identity,
Yep,
identity, and
yep,
he says that when he says self-identity, he says self, I, uh, Mark, identity. I can't say identity. It's so hard. So he has I separated out because it's
yep,
talking about it's self identity. When you say identity, that's talking about about you,
yep.
the individual, and that's it. And I love. And what were the four? It's like I apologize.
I'm sorry.
Um,
Please forgive me.
sorry,
Thank you.
that's
I
it.
love you. And I think sometimes I'll say
Yeah.
I love you, thank you, and I don't think it actually matters. The order.
And he says that he's the two that when I was watching stuff and reading stuff, he used the first he used those two, I love you and thank you, because accepting what you have,
Hmm.
he goes, but then there is that part,
Hmm.
I apologize. You have to do that apology if it's something that somebody else use it. But he was when I the stuff that I was watching, he was talking about your own self brain,
Hmm.
what's going on, and going like, okay, I love you for what you are, and that was something that was in my life, that data, but I thank you for making me who I am, but now I'm going to make that change. So that's the kind of see exactly what you just said too. Usually the I love you, thank you. That's like he pulled those two parts out because that's the self,
Yeah,
And yes, apologies big, but that if you're working on self, you have to be able to work on I.
yeah.
So that's cool.
So it's super simple, super powerful. There are many
Mhm.
people who have completely transformed their lives with this simple practice. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, please forgive me. I love you, thank you, or thank you, I love you. I honestly don't think it matters.
Mhm.
And what does it have on the back of the book? It says, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I love you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's funny because he probably says it back and forth different way. Because in the video I was watching, he said, "I love you, thank you." I'm like, so it's like it's all that
Yeah.
kind of, but it
Yeah.
all works. It's all
Yes.
it's accepting it all. I mean,
Yes.
um, so yeah, so that was a huge thing because I like it. It just because you have to go within yourself. That's what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yep.
It just and Sheldon will put the H word down at the bottom on the video when you go watch it. So make sure to look for that book because he gets pretty intense and it's pretty cool what he talks about. So, but the basics we've
Yeah,
talked
there's a
about
bunch
today.
of books on it.
Hmm.
This book that I'm showing is actually, I think these people are French. A couple of medical doctors and stuff like that, or one medical doctor and a couple of people. Um, there's a bunch of stuff. I'll put a link to this book or whatever, but there's a ton of stuff out there. It's definitely worth going down a rabbit hole of investigating him. And sometimes I think, listening to us talk about it, it's one thing when we're like, okay, whatever, right? But when you watch a video or yourself or you do the research yourself, I'll put a link into Joe Dispenza's
Hmm.
stuff and RJ Spina's and Hugh
Cool.
Len,
Yeah.
maybe a bio of him or something like that, where you can see there's a ton out there. But I'll put some links out there, you guys. It's worth investigating these kinds of people. It's because it's about opening your mind to what is
Hmm.
possible. And so
Yes.
part of it is belief systems. Like if you don't believe it's possible, it's not going to happen, right? You
Hmm.
have to sort of make, again, those principles involved. You have to be able to shift your own mind. Do you believe that you can be at peace? Absolutely. Do you believe that you deserve to be at peace? You know, absolutely you do.
Hmm.
But how do you do that? Then there's some technique, right? So, um, but some of these things help to solidify and strengthen that belief, that knowing inside
Yeah.
that, okay, I can do this. Let's give it a try,
Hmm.
and so that you strengthen the belief as you go down the process. Um,
Yeah. So
and
that's
I think
I,
that's a wrap, right?
yeah. I mean, we got down some good stuff. I mean, we didn't go deep into that, into his theories, but we gave the basic idea, which is all basically people are looking for right now. So,
Yeah.
definitely encourage you to look more into Hugh Lin's stuff. And just kind of just do the basics. Work on basics. We're not here to change the entire world right now. Work with the self. And as I said earlier, that cartoon, fix self,
hmm
then help others. You
I
know,
I
work
always
with them.
think that if the process of turning in and looking inside, and then the idea of healing yourself, of connecting to this love, learning how to love,
Hmm.
um, it's always going up the mountain, right? You're climbing a mountain. There's a million paths up that mountain. That's why in Taoism they say the way that is the way isn't the way. Like, oh, I know the way. We're talking about these fundamental principles that are true no matter
Hmm.
what path you take. You're going to have to go through some of these things, and it may look different for you, and it may be a different path. But the encouragement is to continue down whatever path works for you,
Yep.
to continue to explore, to keep an open mind, and to know that it is possible, and to know that you are worthy of love, that you are love, that you are worthy of love, you're worthy of healing, you're worthy of wholeness, you're worthy of happiness, you're worthy of being at peace and being happy,
Hmm.
right? No matter what you're experiencing in the world. And that you can have that peace and happiness no matter what you're experiencing in the outer physical world. Um,
And we're all traveling. Well, maybe going to that top of the mountain. We're going to that
yeah,
position or that job. Okay, we're all traveling there, but how you got there is different than I got there, which is, by the way, awesome. We don't have to go the same route because I have different experiences I can
yes,
talk about,
exactly.
and I'm a different. I was raised culturally
Yes,
different, different,
yes,
and I have all these experiences.
yes,
Oh, you went over here and had all these experiences.
right,
Now that we're at the same spot, we're like, oh wow, I did this. Oh, you had that. I had this. And
yes,
then all the guests that we have on here
yeah,
have talked about, wow, that's a whole different. I never thought of it that way
yeah,
because they went down that life journey, but in a different path, which is cool. So don't.
yes.
If anyone
Beautiful.
ever says, I know the exact way to get to this position, no, you don't, because
Yeah.
I'm not
And,
you.
and that's beautiful. It worked for you.
Yeah,
It
which is
worked for you.
awesome.
Might not
Yeah.
work for other
Can you
people.
can you tell me your story? Because that's kind
Yeah.
of cool. But I can't do this and this. Like they
Yes.
always say, um, what was it? we talked about it before. It's about, hey, grieving. You got to get through this. Get over it. You got to cry.
Yeah.
No, I don't have to cry.
Yeah.
I will cry when I'm ready to cry, and I don't need to do therapy right now.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's like, no, I'm different than you, because
Yeah.
people judge like, wow, he never cried.
Yeah.
I didn't need to, because I did cry.
Yeah.
You just didn't see me at the time. Maybe it was in the
Yeah.
middle of the night I got up and I started crying.
Yeah.
But it's funny how, no, we're all different. It's okay.
Yeah.
And if you're crying, I'm
It's
going to console
beautiful.
you. I'm going to
It's
help you.
beautiful. Our
Yeah.
differences are beautiful,
Yeah.
and taking it from that perspective, and yeah. So,
So,
this
yeah.
process, right? These are principles. The fundamental principles are simple. I always say the truth is simple. Um, the truth is simple. Doesn't mean it's easy,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Doesn't mean it's easy. What
Mhm.
we're saying, oh, gee, we're not trying to say it like that, but it's simple. Truth is
Yeah.
simple. Love
Mhm.
is love. It's simple. How you express it, how you connect to it, all of those things, there's millions of pathways to that because we're all individuals. So, but there's certain truths that are really simple and pure. And so that's what we kind of try to end up talking about. And it'll be interesting. Hopefully, we'll get some, looking at working on some guests, who are, from different parts of the country that have very different languages and ways of expressing and different beliefs that we're talking
Mhm.
about, but have had profound healing and transformative experiences that are really beautiful, both for themselves and for others. So I'm hoping
Yep.
to have a couple of guests. So we'll see what we can pull off. But anyway,
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
then, right?
A couple of points that I did bring up. Of course, I don't know if it's homework or not, but just, like I said, just recap, I guess. Um, is like, one, we can't fix others. We got to fix ourselves.
Yeah.
Don't try to fix others. Once you, Sheldon, you said it good. Okay, fix myself, and then I can encourage, um, give guidance, give
So,
help, give
yep,
support
yep,
to that other person. But I can't go and fix them.
yep,
They have to fix themselves. Then that's where, once I fix myself and I can help encourage others if they need it, then they can fix themselves. So it
hmm
has to be a self thing there. So I love the cartoon. Always took with me now. Fix yourself.
yeah,
Don't be in the other section where you're trying to fix others, because
yeah,
you're maybe that person standing next to you is finding a book to fix you, and you're finding a book to fix them. Maybe you should be over in the other section fixing
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
So that's kind of, as I saw it. And look within, the thoughts and the things that may be triggering you, and you're realizing like, wow, this is kind of really either got me angry, got me upset, or got me nervous. Um, Go in there and try and change that, or accept that data. I love you because that's who I am, but then see if there's a need to change that data, that thought, that process, and let it not be such a trigger when
hmm
it comes up, when a trigger
hmm
does hit it. And then from there, that's where we choose how we choose to experience life.
hmm
When that comes up, am I experience it a hard way or a nice easy way and accept it for what it is? Okay. And then, that's just changing that data. That's the biggest part. And then you can love and accept others for who they are, not because of what you think they should be. It's like, wow, I wonder where that's coming from. Is that a society thing, or is that a upbringing from a family thing? Is that they may be from a whole other country,
hmm
whole different culture,
Yep,
and society's like, wow, never
yep,
thought of it that way.
yep,
So that's when, once you do that yourself, you go inside, you look within yourself, you fix yourself, and you kind of change some of that data. Then you can look at others and say, wow, I want to learn more about them.
yep,
And then you become more knowledgeable.
yep.
So,
And do
yeah.
the Ho'oponopono.
Yes. Yep. Take a look
And
at.
do the try it every day, all the time, for
Oh,
everything
hey,
that arises. I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Ho'oponopono.
I love you. Thank you.
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Ho'oponopono.
did. I did it. Woohoo.
I'm sorry,
I
please
said
forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry, please
yes.
forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Yeah. I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Mhm,
Thank you. I love you. Just try to do that a million times a day, and
mhm.
come back in a week and tell us how you feel.
Yep, exactly. So hoping you have a great week. Hopefully you got some information out of this and start working on self and looking at what's inside there, and helping change that data a little bit.
And that would be awesome if
And
you practice it and had an experience and put it in the comments. Let us know.
yes, yes, that'd be good. Or how it just help you throughout the week. Yeah, if
Yep.
it just let you to be relaxed and learn. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely let us know in the comments down below. And we hope you have a great week, and I hope you keep that smile on, and make it a great one.
Thanks.